Hi, my name is Jared Farley, and I'm an elementary school principal in Hermiston, Oregon. I wanted to share with you my problem of practice, something I worked through over the last couple of years that's related to the fishbone diagram and also the data collection that I did. Um, so when I first started in my building, we kind of sat down and plotted out a 5-year plan. Essentially, what are the elements or what are the things we're going to focus on each year that are going to help us see significant improvements in student learning. And so with that, each year with the leadership team, we kind of plotted out, what that big focus will be for the year. So in year one, it was all about content. So we did a lot of work related to making sure that the content we put in front of our kids met the standards and was of high enough rigor that they were going to be able to learn at a level they needed to. In year two, we really started focusing on instruction and what instructional practices allow students to allows lift students up to the point they can access that content. And then in years 2 and 3, we also started focusing on student engagement as well. Going into towards the end of year 3 and into year 4, we really felt like we had the systems in place that we needed, but that we needed to get better at what we were already doing. And so reflective practice became one of the things we started talking about. And so with that, I train staff on reflective practice, essentially what it is and why it, how it can be transforming in their own professional growth. And initially, I did a couple trainings and I wasn't getting a lot of people to buy in. In fact, if I remember correctly, when we first started, I think I only had somewhere in the neighborhood of 11 folks that went through a reflective cycle. And of those 11, only 7 or 8, only 3 did so more than once. And this was over the span of about 18 months. And so it really wasn't being very successful. So I did a couple initial stakeholder interviews, and through the stakeholder interviews, I thought I had figured out the problem. I thought it really came down to a lack of time, a lack of resources, but more than anything, buy-in. And so I felt like if I could convince staff that this was something they should do, that I would get more people to engage, and we could really see this whole reflective practice thing take off. And so I really started pushing that with staff. I did a couple more staff trainings where we talked a lot about why reflective practice is crucial, the improvements they can realize as a teacher as a result, pulled out some of the research behind that. In the 2 months that I provided those trainings, I had no more individuals engage. And so I realized that this really I wasn't addressing the root of the problem. And so through the fishbone diagram, I developed a data collection process. I interviewed 4 staff members, 2 of which who had done a reflective cycle but hadn't repeated it more than once, and 2 of which who had not, to try to understand, how come this isn't something that you've decided to take on, or if you have, how come you didn't continue with it? And then I also did a focus group comprised mainly of my leadership team members, and through analyzing all of that data, I came to the conclusion that really it wasn't about buy-in, it was all about training. Because staff wasn't trained effectively on how to reflect, there was a lot of other things that emerged, such as fear of being evaluated unjustly, like who's going to see my video? Is this something that administration is going to see? Is it something that my peers are going to see? And are they going to unfairly judge me as a teacher if I don't do well? But also fear of self. And so one of the things that came out of it is that I thought was interesting that I hadn't considered before is several teachers really were worried about having to see themselves on camera, even more than just having to listen to their own voice and see what they look like on camera. Really, it was about, this is who I think I am as a teacher, and I don't want to be confronted with who I might actually be. I don't want to see that I might not be as effective as I think I am. And so really what staff, those staff who expressed that, what they really struggled with is an ability to not focus on the negative aspects of their teaching. And so left without proper training on how to reflect, that's all they could see in their video. All they could see is all the things that they felt they did wrong. And so through that data collection and analyzing that, we came up with a plan to address those things. And so one of the things we did is I provided the opportunity for coaching. So I did a couple more staff trainings, but this time, instead of focusing on buy-in, we focused on protocols and ways to reflect effectively so they can focus on the positive. We also provided coaching, coach support through reflection. And another neat thing is staff really was on board for this idea of being able to reflect with a trusted colleague, like a team member or their whole grade team. And once we put those things in place and provided those opportunities, over the course of the next 4 or 5 months, I think we had somewhere in the neighborhood of 23 out of my 27 teachers go through a reflective practice cycle. And of those, I think I can't remember exactly, but I think it was 13 teachers did so more than once. And very interesting, the majority of those 13 teachers who went through more than one reflective cycle, the majority of those, the very first time they did a reflective cycle was when they were able to do it in a team session. So when they reflected with their team, and once they felt comfortable with that, oh, this isn't so scary, then they did it again. Another thing we did is we did a fishbowl. And so I got a teacher to volunteer who had been through a couple of reflective cycles, and she went up with a coach and did a reflective practice coaching session in front of the whole staff. And then finally, I actually went and recorded myself teaching and did a reflective practice write-up myself and shared that with the whole staff. Not only did I share the video of myself teaching, but the write-up as well. And so all that really helped us address that and get reflective practice off the ground, and something that we started internalizing as a staff and became a part of how we do business. So thank you very much, and have a great day.